Taufik is a young man already haunted by memories. He lives near Gaza's northern border. One night in December, he and 3 young friends tried to cross the wall near here and enter Israel. They failed. The Israelis shot and killed Taufik's 3 friends. Their bodies were retrieved the next day. The Israelis say they suspected a terror attack. Taufik, who crawled to safety, insists they just wanted to look for work in Israel.
Of course I regret it now. I lost my 3 best friends, the only friends I had. I'd advise anyone thinking of doing it, don't, because life is more important than any money.
Taufik and his friends were driven by poverty, even boredom. Population growth, siege and war have made for very little work in Gaza.
We have already, throughout the past 3 years, more than 100,000 new job applicants to be added to the another 200,000 unemployed people. Some of these people used to work in Israel. Israel was absorbing 100,000 Palestinians who were going to Israel every day to work. Now everybody is sitting at home doing nothing.
This was a juice-making factory in Gaza City's industrial area. And let me just show you a little bit of what happened here during the war. Millions of dollars worth of equipment was destroyed and 30 jobs were lost. And it's the same story across Gaza City's industrial area. Factories were either destroyed or they've gradually had to close down anyway as they ran out of raw materials during the siege. Either way, there's been massive unemployment here.
Mohammed waits by the road, hoping to be offered day jobs by passing drivers. But most days he waits for hours and then gives up.
We go home and we watch TV. We watch the Hamas government and the Ramallah government squabbling for power. And we, ordinary people, are the losers.
Then it seems Mohammed is in luck. This man needs someone to clean his house. He'll pay $5. But he decides not to take Mohammed, but the older man instead. So, disappointment, but hardly unexpected. Looking for work in Gaza is a thankless task. Barnaby Phillips, Al Jazeera, Gaza.
And I'm pleased to say that joining us here in the studio is John Ging, the director of the UN Relief and Works Agency in Gaza. UNRWA, thank you for your time. So we've seen this report, people trying to get out of Gaza, just looking for a job, basically. Can you explain to someone who may not understand life under siege, how does the economy work then? If people don't have jobs, if people can't get jobs, if there's no external trade as such, how does Gaza's economy work?
Well, there is no legitimate economy in Gaza anymore. I mean, which is just a struggle for survival.
So what replaces it then? Just trying to get an idea of how people do things, how people go about their lives there.
Well, you have a tunnel economy, which is a black market under the ground coming in from Egypt, and then you have a trickle of humanitarian supplies, and people basically queue for food. 80% of the population of Gaza are food aid dependent on United Nations handouts, and that's essentially how they survive. But it's a subsistence, and it's a very desperate subsistence physically and mentally. And what's causing them the greatest concern is that it gets worse day by day.
And what do you do? What level of support can UNRWA actually supply?
Well, it's inadequate. I mean, that's the bottom line. You're giving people just a small handout of food, which is totally inadequate for a dignified existence. And we are all the time trying to bring about a realization that this is completely counterproductive to the interests of security, stability and peace, where you have a population increasingly despairing of their circumstance and increasingly suffering.
But you say bring about a realization. I think everyone realizes this now, so why doesn't something happen?
Well, there isn't a political will for action. I'm pleased to say that there's more and more realisation about the counterproductivity of all of this,
right,
and the long-term consequences. Half the population in Gaza are kids under the age of 18. Can you imagine how difficult it is to motivate them just to learn and so on and so forth? But yes, we need political will to find solutions.
From who? From who directly?
Let's start with the leadership of the international community, which is the Quartet. They've made numerous statements over the last 2.5 years that there has to be a change, but we have have not seen the change because it requires action. So again, we have three entry points into Gaza. We have the crossings from Israel, we have the crossing from Egypt, and we have the sea. Somehow or another, we have to find a way to get the supplies into Gaza, to give people not just the means to survive, but to restore them to a dignified existence.
So from your perspective, from your professional perspective, the United Nations, is this the time then for the UN to step up? There is a schism at the moment. We're all seeing it, that there is fractures between Israel and the United States, Israel and Europe. Is this... No, not is the time. It is the time for the UN to step up.
Oh, it
and
is,
show
of course,
it's got the teeth.
and that's why the Secretary-General personally came to Gaza last week to, again, make sure that he is updated himself personally on the state of affairs, also to express his solidarity with the people and to take away a personal motivation for action. And again, we appeal to everybody else to join him. First and foremost, come and have a look. If you're a policymaker, a politician, a decision-maker vis-à-vis this whole equation, then get a first-hand experience.
Yeah. And then do something.
Yes, exactly.
But this is the point I'm coming back to.
Yeah.
So, tell me what you do. Tell me from your perspective. I've asked you this before in satellite interviews we've done, and I'm going to ask you again. When you point out such a desperate situation, what do you personally and the people in your office do with the Israelis, with your bosses in New York, with the Americans? What do you get on the phone and do you yell at them? Do you tell them this isn't good enough? Do you demand action? What?
Of course. What we do basically is we negotiate access for a massive humanitarian operation. So our first responsibility is, of course, to keep people alive, get the medicine in, get the food in. This is a massive logistical operation, as you can imagine.
Does that succeed?
Well, it does, yes. We get the food and we get the medicine in and we're keeping people alive. But it's no life. And that's the second part, that we have to speak out that this is not sustainable. You can't go on like this, destroying people's reason for living, essentially giving them no perspective which is positive. And particularly when you have half the population, they're just children. Now, again, this is, of course, where we have failed. We have to be honest. For 2.5 years, the Gaza Strip has been under a medieval siege, and all the effects are there visible for everybody to see. And yet all we're getting is words of sympathy, empathy and understanding.
So just before we run out of time, where's the action got to come from? Who's got to take the first step? Because as you keep saying, people know the situation is there. You're saying, unfortunately, that you're failing. You're admitting that there's a failure. How do you stop failing?
Well, I can't say anything more than what my Secretary-General has said in terms of where the responsibility lies. At the end of the day, there is a self-appointed quartet which leads the international community, and the ball is in their court to come up with effective action to deal with what we've all been saying is a wholly and totally unacceptable and counterproductive situation.
John Ging, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.